Okay, hey you guys, I'm Dave, and this is the first episode of Tableau and the Science of Fundraising. It's brought to you by Donorology. Why am I doing this? This is my attempt to help fundraisers make your data useful. Something that I think a lot of products out there on the market make too complicated, and something that is still a great necessity for just about everybody in the fundraising industry. I think most of the examples that I show will be working with Tableau, but every once in a while I might have something to say about some other topics. In the meantime, most of our exercises will be working with Tableau Public, which is the free edition. Very recently, back in the spring, Tableau announced that the public edition now allows you to save files locally to your hard drive, which means you have pretty much the fully functional version of Tableau. It doesn't cost you anything, it's free. You do have to sign up for an account with Tableau Public, but you're not required to publish anything to the Tableau Public service, which is really great. I think most of my frustration with the current state of technology in the fundraising industry comes from my experience with working with Razor's Edge and especially its new web-based version. A lot of people call it Razor's Edge NXT. It's really just the web view. And the tool that they put out there as a part of the package is called Insights Designer. And, at first glance, it's like, okay, this is cool. You can make a lot of charts. You can find some interesting things about your data. But what really stands out to me is what's missing from it. So, for instance, if you go to get some insights about your funds, what you see is an absolute absence of mention of fund attributes. This is essential for a ton of shops. Your categorization of your funds is built into your attribute structure or your field structure, and the lack of it really hampers any sort of usefulness. So, for instance, if you were at an education institution and you had a number of your academic units, your schools and your colleges, and you categorize those by your attributes, you don't have any way to say anything useful about your funds now because fund attributes are missing. By the way, attribute is a database view term. Razor's Edge users will know that they're called something else in the web view. Other things are missing too, like if you go to gift records, you will see the absence of gift code. That's a pretty crucial field for a lot of institutions. That helps decide, if they're going to make it a credit card gift or a PayPal gift or something like that, something that helps give dimension to the data, and that's missing as well. And there's tons of examples. And on top of that, aside from being able to pick your charts, it really is pretty skin deep. I've been using Tableau to help learn about data in the fundraising industry for about a decade now. And I found it generally to be the easiest and fastest tool to do anything with. Fastest both in terms of learning and an actual performance. I've used Power BI, I've used Looker Studio, I've used Looker, and nothing quite really compares to Tableau. Let's take a look at some of the particulars here. Just a quick note on technology. I'm still feeling my way through this process, making choices. Sorry if the audio quality, the video quality isn't the best yet. I'm trying to do this using a minimal amount of resources, staying true to the fact that a lot of nonprofits, or as I like to call it, the societal impact sector really don't have a lot of resources to work with. They're forced to do things on a bare bones sort of budget, and I want to stay true to that and demonstrate that you can still do really important level of content, but not necessarily have the polish of some productions that you can find out there. Okay, on the topic of your data and where it's coming from, do you need professional grade stuff? Do you need a SQL backup of your database? The simple answer is no. It's great in a lot of ways. It creates some problems. Back in April of this year, 2024, I did a multi-part series on simple data warehousing for societal impact sector. I make the case that, for instance, with Razor's Edge, query exports, those are fine. Really, all you need to get started. If you have the queue module, that helps. That adds a layer of conveniency, but it's really not necessary. And really, just with being a little careful with what you're calling down in your exports, your query exports, you can do the same level of powerful stuff. For the main technology that I'll be making most use of, Tableau Public, is this meant to be a Tableau instructional series? Well, kind of. You see, there's a ton of great content out there for Tableau instruction. However, they always use data from the sample store data set that comes with Tableau. And the problem is, it's almost a different kind of language if you're used to working with nonprofit data, fundraising data. It's in a different sort of mindset, and some of the examples are kind of hard to follow. So I will be showing how to use Tableau in the context of working with fundraising data. That being said, I wholeheartedly recommend don't put my single egg in your basket. Have a few other things to look at. Tableau visionaries that I follow, Tim and Gwenna, or Tableau Tim as he's called, Andy Kriebel, another really good one. The Flurledge twins are very well known. When it comes to the artistry of dashboards, I like looking at Shreya Arya's stuff. When it comes to data modeling, Kirk Monroe. But really, the person who I think makes Tableau so accessible to people who just really aren't that technical getting started, Tableau Tim. Check him out. He has just dozens of really good videos out there. A lot of them are free. He has some paid stuff as well. Okay, so you can download Tableau Public from the Tableau website. You may have to Google it. It's free. You have to sign up for an account. If you are on a Mac, you're going to want to make sure that you pay attention to what silicon you're using, what processor. Are you using an Intel processor, or are you using Apple's own silicon, M1, M2, M3, M4s coming out any day now? Once you get your account made, then you're ready to go off to the races. The first thing you do is connect to your data. Now, we're limited to basically desktop files. In the paid version of Tableau, which, by the way, some qualifying nonprofits can get it for free plus a application fee that's like $70 or some manageable number like that. Not all nonprofits qualify, but for those who do, it's really worth it, I think. Tableau Public is good. Regular Tableau Desktop is better, though. You can work with all sorts of different kind of data connectors. Still, let's talk about Tableau. public. We connect to our data. You can click this option and you can then navigate to it. I'm just going to grab it from my dock down here, and then it's going to pop up into this data preparation pane. So just a little bit here about what you're seeing, about what's taking place. What you have here is what the nature of your connection is. This is connecting to a CSV. In this pane right here, you can you can join your data, different spreadsheets, different CSV files, or different Excel files. You can join them together in different ways. So if you have one spreadsheet, which is a list of gift information, and then another spreadsheet, which is a list of constituent information. You can join them together and you can make them work together. I'm not going to get into that right now. Always pay attention to this field over here, which is data interpreter. I recommend using this as much as possible. Sometimes your data may not be in exactly the format Tableau would like it to be in, and this just kind of gives it a little push. It's not a substitute, though, for making sure your data is clean to begin with. Okay, and then in this pane down here, what we have is some sample data and our columns from our data set, okay? I'm just going to go ahead and click on sheet number one, which if you want to think of it like Excel, that's like a tab in Excel. This is the canvas that we do our basic level of work in. There's multiple levels of where you can do your work. The worksheet, the tab at the bottom, this is the most basic level. Okay. Uh, we have a bunch of, let's see, control buttons here at the top. We have our data, which is from our data source over here. And you'll notice that Tableau has already divided it into two sections. Okay, there's a line right between the two of them. Tableau is attempting to figure out that some of your rows and columns, some of your columns have just numbers in them, which is going to make the assumption those are quantitative. And then it will note that some of your columns have textual information in them, and those will be dimensions. And so Tableau goes ahead and it tries to put some data as dimensions, which is basically how you want to distinguish your data, how you want to categorize your data, and then into measures, which is how do you want to count your data. In the end, all of the data that you connect to in Tableau, it's rows and columns. It looks just like kind of an Excel spreadsheet. And it's even referenced the same way in Tableau, which is in columns and rows. So even though you might have all of these fancy charts for dashboards, you might have maps, you might have spatial data and things like that, it all boils down to it's rows and columns. And at the very basic level, that's how the Tableau program is interacting with your data. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start by, I'm going to get rid of a few of these because in the data source, I took out of a Razor's Edge export. I had to make a little bit of changes to it. And so I have a few fields which I had to make in Excel, and we're not really going to be using those. So I'm just going to hide those. And this is just right clicking. And then, as I said before, sometimes Tableau sees things as a number and it just assumes that that's a measure. It assumes that's something you want to count. That's not always the case. For instance, for a constituent ID number, that's not anything I want to count. I mean, yes, it's a number, but it's the numeral equivalent of a name. And so that's actually a dimension. And so I just click and I drag that over. Same thing with gift ID. The things that I want to count, okay, well, that's gift amount and gift receipt amount. Those are the things I want to learn about. Those are the things that I'm ultimately trying to get to. Dimensions just help me understand different things about these numbers. Okay, so let's start by taking our sample topic, which is one of the most frequent questions I see on the Razor's Edge Facebook support group is I want to know how many years out of any given number of years have my donors given. So out of 10 years, how many years have my donors given? And I want to see that donor by donor by donor. I want to see that as a list. There's nothing in a Razor's Edge report or export that's really going to get you that data you want in a summarized sort of way. It can give you consecutive giving, but that may not be what you're asking for. So if you want to know how many years out of the last 10 years have your donors given, well, some might have given one or two, some four or five, six or seven, on down the road. Okay, that doesn't translate well into a Razor's Edge export or report. So this is a really common riddle. I'm going to show you two ways you can answer this in a matter of seconds. One is pretty straightforward and simple. The other uses a little bit of technical expertise that you'll develop over time if you work with Tableau. You'll have to use this feature of calculations, but let's take first step first, okay? So I want to take my constituent ID and I'm going to drop it here. And now you can see here's my constituent ID. I'm not going to use names. That would probably not be very good. These constituent IDs have been anonymized, though, so they don't really exist anywhere except in a kind of an imaginary string of characters here. I want to know how many years or how many years out of X number of years have donors given. Okay, so I could do something simple like go with the gift amount, and I'm just going to drag it here. And this is basically counting all of the gift amounts of all of my donors ever. This is about, I think, 25 years worth of data. And then I'm going to take my gift date field, the date that the gift was made, and I'm going to drag it up to columns. And you'll see right away it gives me a whole bunch of information. This is a lot to look at, so I'm going to get rid of some of these years. I'm going to click on one, and I'm going to come over here to about 2014, and I'm going to click on that as well. And you'll notice all the years in between are now highlighted. I want to get rid of these. This is just a little too much data to work with. So now I've got about 10 years worth of data, and I'm going to shrink this just a little bit if I can. Okay, this gives me a little bit of space to work with. Okay. So I can see right away for constituent number 15, in 2015, they gave me $1,500, $7,500. Constituent 87 gave $7,500, 17,500 in 2016, 10,000 in 2015, and so forth and so on. This isn't really what I want. I'm not really interested in the amounts. I just want to know that they made a gift. It really doesn't matter if somebody made one gift or 100 gifts, but it's a lot easier to look at, and the numbers are going to be a bit more manageable. So instead of counting the dollars of the gifts, I just want to count that a gift happened. I'm going to take the gift ID and I'm going to drag it on top. of uh, my little sum calculation I had. Okay. Okay. What you'll notice is that when I drag the ID on top, it kind of automatically assumes I'm talking about the number of the gift ID, so the name of the gift ID, as it were. And for some of these, it renders this now as the dot dot dot. That means there's multiple gift IDs in one year for that constituent ID. This really isn't what I want. I want Tableau to think of this just as a count of my gift IDs. So if I gave three gifts in one year, I have three gift IDs for that year. And I want to count those three gift IDs. So I'm going to go to my drop down here. I'm going to go to my measure and I'm going to select the option for count distinct. Okay, now it does exactly what I wanted it to. For constituent number 15, one gift in 2015. For constituent 1301, four gifts in 2015, four gifts in 2016, and so forth and so on. Okay, now I'm getting somewhere. But what really doesn't matter is if a person gave one gift, they're a donor. Doesn't matter if they gave one gift or 100 gifts, they're still counted as a donor. So basically, what I want to do is to be able to show not one gift or two gift or three gifts or four gifts, just that they gave a gift. And then I need to be able to count all those years they gave a gift. Okay, so in order to do this, I'm going to do something called creating a calculation. A calculation, if it helps to understand, is like a formula in Excel. So if you have the numeral 1 in one cell, and then in the next cell you have the numeral 5, you want to write a formula to add the two together. You literally type into the next cell the equal sign, and then you'd select the cell for the first cell, and then you'd select the plus sign, and then you'd select the second cell, and then you'd click the enter button. So it would be cell number 1 plus cell number 2 equals your number. Okay, that's literally what we're going to do. We're going to write a calculation. So I'm going to go to this drop down up at the top here, and I'm going to write create calculated field. Okay. First time working with calculated fields, some interesting stuff. You can drag this and make it bigger or smaller as you need to. When you get into writing complex calculations, you'll probably want to make this bigger than it is. We're just going to call this made a gift. Okay, we're going to give it a name. And in this case, I'm going to say if, and it gives me predictive text. It's going to try and help me out. If the count D, which is short for count distinct, of gift ID preferred, that's my gift ID field, is greater than 1, then 1. Else 1 end. Okay, so what does this mean? Basically, if my count number here is greater than 1, I just want to show it as 1. I don't need the 2 or the 4 or the 5 or whatever. I just need a 1. If it's already 1, just leave it and then end. That's all there is to the calculation. Okay, there's a few different easier ways I could have done this, but I want to get everyone used to thinking in terms of conditional statements. If then, if you have this condition, then this thing. If this, then that. Okay, so conditional statements are probably the most common calculation that you end up using getting started. And even though there are other ways I could have done this, this is probably going to be the best way starting out. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to drag this new field called made a gift, which is my calculation. I'm going to drag it on top of the existing field there. And you'll notice that everything now became a 1. Everything is a 1. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So in all the years people gave, regardless of how many gifts they gave, it's just showing as 1. Because now what I want to be able to do is count this. So I'm going to go up to the top, my menu, and I'm going to select analysis. And I'm going to go to the totals and I want to say show row grand totals. And okay, well, that works for the first year or for the first constituent. But for the second constituent, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This should be a 6. How come it's not showing a 6? I need to give Tableau a little bit more instruction here. Okay, and I'm going to widen this out just a little bit if I can to make this readable just a little bit more. Okay, well, that's good enough. You can see it's a grand total field is what it's saying. Okay, um, so what I need to do is I need to go to my drop down and I need to total using sum. I need to add these numbers together. And now you see it's adding them all up correctly. 1 for constituent 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for constituent 87, and I've got a 6. And you can go through this and spot check, but you'll see this is all correct. Okay, so right away you can see some constituents in this 10-year period have given just once or twice, and some have given, well, like never. Okay, so this is, or given a whole bunch. You can see they've given a whole bunch. Okay, so right away, I could just go to worksheet and I could export this. I could just export this and then I could, let's say something like I could go to my Razor's Edge and I could import this constituent ID number. Maybe I could import this as a rating if you have the prospect module. I could import it as an attribute. And then maybe every year I do this as an exercise and updating it. But if I want to do a few more interesting things like sorting or doing a little bit more data analysis, I'm going to have to do this a different way because Tableau isn't going to let me sort this in the format that it's in. I can sort by year each year. I can sort by the constituent ID number, can't sort by my total. I've got to do something else if this is what I want to do. Okay, so I'm going to go open another tab here, and I'm going to sort of get started again with the whole thing. I'm going to go to constituent ID preferred, and I'm going to drop it, and now I've got my list here. Okay, and then I'm going to make a different kind of calculation. I am going to do something which is a little bit advanced for getting started, but it's probably one of the most powerful things that you'll use on a regular basis, which is called a level of detail calculation. And in fact, this is probably the preferred way to do this question of how many years have my donors given over the last 10 years? Okay. So I am just going to call this count of years given per donor. always try to name your calculation something descriptive. You find as you get moving along with Tableau that you write so many calculations. If you don't give them really good names, it can get confusing really quickly. Okay, so level of detail. What am I trying to do? What I'm trying to do is for each constituent, I want to get a count of if they gave a gift in each year. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. I'm going to type the word fixed because I'm fixing my analysis on the constituent ID, the donor. Okay. How do you know how do you know what you're supposed to be typing here? I'm going to show you a little something, which is I'm going to click this caret and it pops open this window. And you'll note that if I put my cursor on the keyword here, fixed, you'll notice a little helpful hint pops up. Uh, these are all of the calculation uh, functions that I could invoke. And most of them are way more than what we need to know right now, but it gives you an idea, at least, of what you're supposed to, the form that your calculation is supposed to be taking. Okay. So, what I want to do is count the distinct year gift date. And then it tells me this isn't quite right. What's going on? Let's see. Brackets are really important. So I've got a parens here, and I've got a parens here. I've got a closing parens here. I've got another one here. But at the very beginning, I have a bracket. And so it's expecting a bracket at the end. This is called the syntax of it. And this is just what you have to do to make the calculation work in the language that Tableau speaks. Excel has its own, Power BI has its own, Google Sheets has its own. Anytime you're working with calculations or formulae, you've got to put it in the specific format it wants. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to take this count and I'm going to drag it to rows. And it's going to do something funny. It's going to give me this little visualization. It's going to assume that I'm wanting a kind of an image of what it looks like, and that's not really what I want. Okay, so you notice right away that some of these little fields I'm dragging out are blue and some are green. If it's blue, it probably came from the dimension section. If it's green, it probably came from the measures section. Okay. But what I want it to do is to treat this a little bit differently. I want to treat this number a little bit differently. So I'm going to do this drop down, and where it says continuous, I want to switch it to discrete. I want it to think, I want Tableau to look at this number in terms of each constituent as its own thing, not a continuous number. I will show in a future video better examples of what this actually means, but I want to focus right now on just the actual question at hand. Now, um, it it defaults to what I'm hoping it would have looked like, which is, a number instead of a picture. Okay, so now I have my count of years given per donor, so per constituent. Okay, 9 years of giving for constituent 15. Now let's compare this to my other chart that I did up here. over here on the first tab. For constituent 15, I have that this person gave once. And here they gave 9. What's the difference? Well, here I limited, remember, the number of years that was given that this donor was giving, okay? Or that all the donors were giving. And I kind of need to do that same thing. Otherwise, right now, it's looking at all years of data. I want it to look at the same number of years that this uh, visual is taking place at. So uh, you'll note that here I have filtered, I selected those years and I clicked exclude. That created a filter, and I need to do the same filter. I'm going to come here, I'm going to drag to gift date, I'm going to click years, and I'm going to say, I just want these years, and I'm going to click them. I can click them one at a time as well, and then click apply. Upon clicking, you see nothing happens. So one thing to keep in mind when working with Tableau is a concept called contextual filtering. Some filters, it's just a matter of dragging the pill in, the blue pill in, and then selecting your numbers, your clicks for your values. Okay, but what I want to do is to add this filter to context. I don't have any other context right now. What I'm really doing is establishing context. And so now by clicking that, first of all, it changed the color to gray. So now this is a contextual filter. In a future session, I will also talk about the different types of filtering. And for right now, all you need to know, though, is for most cases, getting started with your filters, the first thing you're going to want to do is click that Add to Context option for it to count properly. And now you'll see constituent 15.1, constituent 87.6, and over here we have constituent 15.1, constituent 87.6. And now, because this is in a sortable row now, I can sort by the values. So now I've got all these donors who've given all 10 years down to 9, down to 8, and all the way down. And so if I was to say, well, okay, for this exercise, I only want donors who gave more than 5 years, 6 years or more. We want to do something special for these donors. We want to recognize loyal donors. Okay, well, now you can take your count of years given per donor, you can move it to a filter, you can click all values, and you can say at least 6. And then it's going to count just donors that gave 6 years or more. I'm going to click OK. And now 10, my lowest value down this list is going to be 6. So now I only have the constituents that have given for 6 or more years in that 10-year span. So that really only took us a few years, or excuse me, a few minutes to figure out 2 methods by which I can figure this out. And likewise, I can go to my worksheet menu and I can export this. And if I want to take this list of IDs and import it into a query, and then from that query, I can find whatever else information I want in my export in Razor's Edge. Or I can import this again into a attribute or into a rating, and great. Now I've got that data inside the database, and I can call that out whenever I want in an export. So this is a quick way of doing something that is just not possible with in the features given to you in Razor's Edge. Our next session, I'm going to be looking at another common problem, which is how do you compare what your changing demographic dynamic is related to, let's say, age? So maybe you have a certain number of donors that gave in the age range of 40 to 49, and you want to see what that looked like 10 years ago. Well, again, in Razor's Edge, it doesn't make it that easy to perform that operation. You could do a little bit of multiple exports and then some Excel magic. We'll take a look at a way of doing that that gives us our answer in a visual manner pretty quickly. So, thanks for sticking with me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the blog or in the YouTube feedback. And I look forward to talking with you next time.